Hello to everyone. How are you? Here I am on the evening of Thursday, March 19th at 10:03 at night, uh, beaming in, uh, trying to. Oh, there we go. People have appeared. There you go. Hello to everyone. Oh, I got flowers, Pennsylvania, New Jersey, yay, Missouri, yay, excellent. Everyone is here. I was talking to a friend about a half hour ago, and I was explaining to her how when I first come on, there's nobody here, and so I'm like la la la, like trying to think of things to say while I wait to see if people are going to show up. And here you are, and here I am. Wonderful. I am glad you are here. Beaming in from South Carolina, Tennessee. You guys, like, poof, you guys came in strong. Okay, so I hope you all are well. I might be brief tonight. I know I always say that, and then I am not brief. But tonight I might actually be brief because I've been really tired, and I know I say that all the time. There's reason why, but I'm really tired. So tonight might be an actual brief session. However, there is something that I want to talk about tonight. And it may or may not surprise some of you because as soon as it happened, email and social media just chimed in as far as beaming into my orbit. And that is yesterday's Senate hearing regarding Mark Wayne Mullen, who is picked by Trump to take over for Christine Noem to take charge of the Department of Homeland Security. Yes, indeedy do. Mark Wayne Mullen of Oklahoma. And I'm wondering, let's see, how many of you were aware of that at all? I'm very curious. Whether you folks I've been beaming a lot today, whether you folks saw that or not, whether you did or didn't, I will tell you my thoughts. So you may or may not have heard of Mark Wayne Mullen before. Mark, there you go, another nightmare candidate, lone traveler. Mark Wayne Mullen is a man with anger management issues. Mark Wayne Mullen almost challenged a Teamster leader to a fist fight in a hearing in Congress at some point in the past. He is a guy who, and I think he was some kind of martial arts warfare. I don't know what. He's a guy who likes fighting. And apparently yesterday, he and Rand Paul had a little clash. And I believe it started with Rand Paul asking Mullen about his thoughts about using violence in the course of whatever the hell it is he's going to be doing in Homeland Security. And I see someone saying, wow, it goes fast. Yes, it does indeed go fast. Dumb as a box of hair. You guys are on it tonight. Dumb as a sack of hammers. You guys are in the mix. At any rate, so Rand Paul asked him about violence. Are you going to use violence? And first, Mullen said, no, I'm not good. I don't believe that I should use violence. I don't, he hemmed and hawed a little bit. And when Rand Paul pushed further, Mullen said, well, here in Congress, dueling is still on the books. Now, let me pause. Let me pause at that moment. He was, I think he might have referred to the caning of Charles Sumner in 1856. But the fact that he thinks that dueling is still on the books in Congress and that somehow that's a good thing. Let me unpack that just a little bit. For one, and Rand Paul did indeed say this, no, it's not, right? Dueling has been illegal for a very, very, very long time. And actually, people were dueling and it was already illegal. So no, it's not on the books. And if Mullen, and I don't think he knows enough to have been trying to say this, but if he had known enough to say, well, there's been violence in Congress before, why couldn't it happen again? Which is not what he said. Look at all the violence that happened before. Well, we could talk about why that violence was there, but it wasn't endorsed. It wasn't in the rules. It wasn't thumbs up for duelings and canings in Congress. Never. The reason why that stuff happened is because people allowed it to happen. And the people who tended to be the most violent, and I say this with no hatred of Southerners at all, but largely it was Southerners because they were defending the institution of slavery. So, speaking more broadly, and for those of you who don't know, my most recent book was The Field of Blood, Violence in Congress and the Road to Civil War. And in the book, I found, I don't even remember the number anymore, 80, 60, I don't know, a lot of physically violent incidents on the floor of the House and Senate, beyond just the caning of Charles Sumner, which everyone knows. And I analyzed who did what to who and why, and the trajectory of it and everything else. And what I discovered in the end was, for the most part, that it was Southerners who were trying to use threats and violence to intimidate Northerners and anyone who was anti-slavery to shut up and sit down and not speak up too loudly. So what was happening, there was a lot of violence. I found it in my book, not because it was on the rule books, as Mullen somehow thinks, not because it was endorsed, but because people weren't enforcing those rules at the time, because it was kind of assumed that, I talked last Friday about manly men in the current day. And the assumption was, that you let men do what they do. And if it gets out of control, you can send in the sergeant at arms, but basically men will do what men will do. So there was a reasonable amount of violence. And if it didn't get out of hand, it would settle down and people would go back to their seats, which is often ridiculous, the extent to which that happened, but still not accepted. And the important part to realize about it is that a lot of this violence was, as I said a moment ago, Southerners trying to shut up abolitionists and anti-slavery advocates and Northerners on the question of slavery. Why were they using violence? Because they didn't really have arguments that they could propose. You can only say it's good for them to be enslaved so many times before people aren't going to buy that argument. And the institution of slavery is grounded on physical violence. It is a violent regime. So yeah, Southerners were armed. They brought knives and guns into Congress when they came, and they used those to threaten people who seemed to be about to get in the way of protecting slavery. They threatened them, and more often than not, Northerners either chose not to stand up and make trouble, or they stood up and then they saw what was coming and they sat down. So it worked for a while. But the logic of it is, that's an argument for when you don't really have an argument. That's an argument for when you just want someone to shut up and you think you're bigger and badder and you're armed and you can do what you want because you can get what you want because that's the guy you are. And that's what we were seeing a little rehearsal of with Markwayne Mullen. Right? Well, dueling between consenting adults is still on the books. Okay, number one, no, it's not. Number two, for what reason would you think that would be a good thing to reach for in this particular moment? Right? If you're mad at someone who's in the same legislative body as you, is that really the way that you are going to seek to resolve that problem? To reach for weapons of some kind, whether you shoot it out on a dueling field or not? Is that really what one should opt to do when there is a difficulty of some kind? And this brings us to the fact that this guy, anger management guy, dueling is still on the books guy, is the guy who they are considering to take Kristi Noem's place for Homeland Security. Really? That's the guy who they're going to have overseeing security and ICE? The guy with anger management problems? I mean, did no one even think about just the appearance of this, never mind the logistics of it? But if you're worried about for example, a coming election, and you are aware of the fact that the ICE, the behavior of ICE and the immigration policy that this regime has is not popular and is not going to get more popular, and you're worried about making it look better, and you do things like pretend that you're going to pull back, and you do things like fire the woman and Kristi Noem and blame her for things that went wrong. If you're at least trying lamely and with little purpose or effect, but if you're trying to suggest that you've got the issue under control, Markwayne Mullin is gonna uphold that for you? That's the guy you pick who you think will have things better under control, will be able to understand different situations and understand that violence is not the immediate solution to any and all problems, when basically in his life, he appears to think that that's the case. I just, it has always been the case since, it took me 17 years to write The Field of Blood. It took me forever. And I was like the violence in Congress person for all of those years. And what that meant was whenever any violent incident happened anywhere in the world, it would be in my email. People would be contacting me. They would be telling me about it, like, Joanne, more violence in a legislative body. So I somewhere in my computer, I have probably a really scary collection of legislators of various kinds behaving badly. And again and again and again and again, that's not a sign that a legislature is functioning well. It's not a sign that the legislators are skilled at what they are doing. It's a sign of nothing good. It is a sign of nothing good. It is a sign of the process of politics, which certainly in any kind of democratic nation involves debate and compromise. And sure, debate can be pretty fiery, can be pretty rough, can be rude, can be people yelling at each other. Right? Debate doesn't have to be all polite all the time. Admittedly, right? Debate can be kind of hard and fast. But still, in a normal, small d democratic nation of any kind, that's what you're supposed to do. And if you can't get what you want, maybe you play hardball. Maybe you hold back and refuse to negotiate. Whatever. We've all seen this forever. That this is what happens in Congress. They figure out how to play the rules or play each other to prevent things from happening that they don't want to happen. That's partly how a legislature works. How it does not work is people thinking about whether or not they can justifiably slam each other or challenge someone to a duel. And however much Mullin might say, well, I was joking. It was a joke. And I should say, abusive personalities, when you face an abusive personality and they say something really nasty to you and they see the response on your face, they then claim it was a joke. Don't you have a sense of humor? So not only is it your fault for being insulted, but it's your fault for not realizing it's a joke when it wasn't a joke. And that's, Mullin could say, well, I was only joking, fine. But basically what he was saying was violence is okay. I support violence. Violence should be okay. It's on the books. In and of itself, that's a bad thing. Putting that person in charge of Homeland Security, putting that person in charge of anything having to do with security, really? To some degree, I don't even know what to say about this. That's right. Yeah, I'm just too sensitive. I don't get the joke. I'm trying to catch up to what you guys are saying. Yeah, might will never make right. For brief periods, it might, but in the end, no, because in the end, it has no argument. It has no logic. It's just brute force. Someone says, there are some people in the regime who I would love to see in a cage match. I'm not going to even go there. I'm not even going to go there. But it is. Eve says it's also obscene. And someone else says you should go back to plumbing. Yeah. So here's the thing. It is of a piece with the regime and the fact that they're now at a point where mostly what they're interested in doing is intimidating people. And we've talked about this here before, and I've talked about this Friday mornings before, that they're performing brutality and they're performing nastiness and they're performing strength, and they're in one way or another suggesting that they're big and mighty and powerful, and everyone can tell how big and mighty and powerful they are, so we are supposed to be cowed. As I've said here before, they're doing all of that posturing and posing because they are not big and strong and powerful. And in fact, ironically, they are drumming up resistance with that kind of posturing and posing. They're getting people more, I don't want to even say more engaged, more riled up, more willing to stand up against something that is so obviously out of bounds as being nice, off the charts, unacceptable, crude. It shouldn't be here. It shouldn't be happening. And the more they're parading it around, thinking that they're going to intimidate us, the more they are getting more people to want to stand up and say something. So they are creating their own resistance. I like that, the idea of that trajectory. I like that logic. Even so, what we saw with Marquane Mullen and doings on the books, that was certainly of a piece with everything else that we're seeing. Now, one other thing I want to mention, which is still kind of a piece with this, and that is related to the war in Iran, the war without a purpose in Iran, and that now that there's a problem getting oil through the Strait of Hormuz, I hope I'm saying it correctly, suddenly Trump is asking other nations to help clear the strait, to help somehow or other with the situation. Now, going back to what I just said, if you're rude and nasty and insulting and bullying and basically just an all-around asshole, do you really think other nations are going to rise to your defense? Of course not. You have proven yourself not trustworthy in any way. You've proven that you're about yourself and nobody else. And nations, logically enough, are saying, no, why would we help you? You've been bullying us and obnoxious to us. Why do you think we would ignore that? So not only is there all of this posturing about, look how tough we are, look how strong we are, we can fight a war because we want to fight a war, death from the sky, even though there's no purpose, oomph, we're guys. But there's even an unwillingness to be accountable for the implications of that, for the repercussions of that. And that's what's happening now on the world stage. The repercussions for behaving that way towards foreign nations is they're not going to step forward and help you anymore. So, and this I've been saying for years, that we live in a time that is grounded on a failure of accountability. No one wants to be accountable for anything. And that's particularly true for this regime, and particularly true for Trump. He says what he says, does what he does, and then if he doesn't like it or it goes wrong, he blames someone else, or says it's someone else's fault, or that he never said it in the first place, or whatever. He himself never, holds himself and thus prevents others from holding him accountable for anything. But it's not just him. This regime is not really centered on the idea of accountability, including for the brute violence that it's putting out in the world, and which Mark Wayne Mullen is yet another example of. Just not accountable. Just we do what we do when we want to do it, and we get what we want when we want to get it, and it's power. It's all about power. We want power. We want to keep power forever, and we're going to do whatever we have to do to get and keep power. That's the kind of behavior that the revolutionaries in the United States were fighting against, right? Absolute power corrupts absolutely. That comes from that era. And they're right? You don't want one person or a small group of people to have so much power that there's no check on how they think they can use it, on how they can use it, on how violent it is or violent it isn't, on who's to blame for it. Everything, in a sense, this is going to be a huge generalization, but if you think certainly about our Constitution and the Constitutional Convention, the structure of government and the debates that they were having about what kind of government we should have, in one way or another, it's all about the distribution of power. Because no one person or one branch should have all the power. Almost by definition, that means corruption. Because it means you're going to do whatever you want to do with the amount of power you have to get what you want. And we're watching a regime, certainly with an immune president, but in any number of other ways, that is showing that playing out again and again and again. They have power. They want power forever. They're going to do whatever they need to do so that they can have and keep power. And they're assuming that there will be no repercussions, no implications. They just do what they do and it's all okay. And that's what they get and that's what they want. This brings us back to the big we. Because the fact of the matter is, they are the minority. We are the majority. We, the people, have to fall in place for this whole mechanism to work. And clearly, in some way, they're assuming that threats and perhaps violence, but at the moment, threats of violence might get people to fall into place, but that's not what they're seeing. That's not what they've seen so far. That's not what they're continuing to see. Kristi Noem so long, in part, because sure wasn't working what she was doing to supposedly intimidate people and shut them up and have them parade around and show how strong they are. We, the people, need to fall in place for this whole thing to work. And we, the people, are not falling into place. We, the people, are offering surprise after surprise after surprise to the regime, saying again and again, we thought we'd shut up and sit down, but no, actually. We're going to not even sit down. We're going to stand up. We're going to push back. We're going to find new ways to organize. We're going to join up with each other. We're going to resist. And we will be even more seemingly bonded and even more motivated and even more purpose-driven the more you try to shut us down. Because we know we have rights. And no matter how much they claim that we don't have those rights, like, I don't know, the right to protest, for example, they may try to make us believe that we don't have that right, but we do. Read the Bill of Rights. I always tell people, go read the Declaration of Independence, because the grievances will give you a pretty clear view of what tyranny, how that was defined in the Revolutionary era. Read the Bill of Rights if you want a little reminder about what rights we actually have and what rights are literally in the document that constitutes us as a nation. So, and yes, there you go. Mizell 71, Americans are famously known for not going quietly. I said that in one of the first episodes I did of this, when I talked about how a foreign Prussian military figure came to join the Continental Army to teach them how to drill. They were in Massachusetts, and he was stunned to discover that you can't just give orders to Americans. They won't just follow orders. You need to explain why you're giving them the order. He's like, these Americans, you have to explain why you're doing things. They're not just going to listen to orders. I love that anecdote, and I tell it a lot because it does get at something fundamentally American. People want to know why you're telling us to do things. People, we're a nation of people, some of whom came here by choice and had to begin anew. Some of you who came here by no choice at all, but had to deal with the situation that they found when they were here in one way or another. And then people who were already here and had to deal with all these other people beaming onto the scene. In one way or another, this nation was grounded on conflict and what do I want to call it? I don't want to say standing up. Conflict and clenched fists and rights defined broadly. Everyone thinking about their rights. That's a short and long way of saying Americans are not necessarily good at just following orders, and that goes all the way back to the revolution. And here we are in another moment when we are and have been, certainly in Minnesota, been proving that absolutely right. And we, defiance, thank you. We're going to continue to prove that right. Because as long as we come here together, act together, show the force of a we, show that we're not just going to fall into place. We're not just going to say, oops, I spoke too loudly. I'm going to sit down now. Show that what they're doing is provoking resistance. That works to our favor. That is certainly right now part of what we can do to begin to fuel resistance to what they're doing. Just keep reminding them, no easy path. Whatever it is they think they're doing, it is not going to be an easy path. We're going to stand in the way. We're going to throw sand in the gears. We're going to be in the way in every way we can possibly be. And ideally, we're going to do it together. We're going to do it in groups, because the more there are of us, the stronger we are. Which brings us right here to our wonderful community. There's over 1,000 people here this evening, which is always wonderful and encouraging. I will mention several of you have mentioned March 28th, and indeed, March 28th. Are they calling it No King's Day again, I think? Is that what they're calling it? Is it going to be a No King's Day? Whatever it is, March 28th. I think it would be a fine thing if that was the largest protest in American history. I say that as a historian. And I know that I will say that, and yes, no kings. People will say, big deal. A lot of people march, and it doesn't matter. I said this before on my Friday morning podcast. Don't know if I've said it here, but the fact of the matter is these kinds of protests do a lot of hard work. They show people who are not fully revved up that there are a lot of people that are revved up and resistant and ready to go. For the people who are there, they put them in the company of others who feel the same way and fuel a sense of a we, and fuel the sense of resistance, the sense of a movement. How else do you build a movement than by displaying mass numbers of people who are agreeing and acting out and standing up and yelling about what they think? In and of itself, will it poof create change? No. But if you want to fuel resistance, those kinds of moments are important. And I think this one will be as well. It is we the people. I'm trying to catch up. Yes, someone is saying, well, no. Okay, so someone is saying, I'm feeling like we are spiraling into certain doom. No, I can tell you, for better and worse, we live in a time of extreme contingency. What that means is we, honest to God, have no idea what's going to happen. And it's possible that bad things will happen. It's possible that good things might come out of this moment if we stand up in it and find a way to make things better. Contingency means unstable, but it doesn't mean certain doom. And I urge you, do not believe in certain doom. Nothing is certain right now, which is good and bad, right? It's scary. It's part of why we're scared. We don't know what the hell is coming next. It is scary to be alive and thinking in a moment like this. But there is no certain anything, and there's definitely not certain doom, particularly as we are here together, fueling each other, boosting each other up so that we can keep going forward one step at a time. That is our job. Keep moving forward, stand by others one step at a time. Think every day of a thing you can do to get in the way of this regime. And lots of little things can add up to a big impact. And of course, we have to figure out ways to have a big impact all by itself. But don't think that because the little things that you do in your life won't make a difference. Because enough little things can really make a difference. But it's happening all over the place. It will become apparent that this is a wave of a response. Okay. Buoy each other up. Yes, baby steps is okay. Someone says, for me, baby steps. That's okay. Baby steps are steps. I mean, I know that some of you have never protested before in your lives. I think that's true for a lot of people. I can't say, I mean, I have protested before, but I can't say that it's something that I did my entire life. It happened after college, and it was about being pro-choice. And that's what got me to stand up and speak out. That was my first experience with protest. And what I felt in that moment was just the power of being with so many people who felt the same way. So it wasn't just me sitting around feeling, where are my rights? What's happening? It was, oh, wow, there are these amazing women who I'm standing with and training with. We learned how to do passive resistance. Look at these people. These are amazing people. We are amazing people. You are amazing people, folks. You just are. I don't know you, and I give you that because you can feel the beaming of good, the beaming of resistance just coming off of the community that is here whenever I beam in. I missed one night. I did 3, I missed 1, I'm back. Okay. I am going to move towards the exit ramp because I really do want to go to bed. The world will be watching on the 28th. That is indeed true. So, my people, she's vulching again. I don't know if you can see that. Look for her little head. She's watching. So, folks, don't forget, big heaping bunch of chutzpah. As someone said, I'm going to have to go figure out who said it. We have an infinite supply of chutzpah. We're going to need it. We are. But we've got it. And it's in a can with a label on it, which is excellent. Who knew that when I bought this at a museum, it was going to end up feeling so important? But it is. Okay, so don't forget your chutzpah. Do not forget, always remember to stand up for your neighbors, to stand up for your principles, to stand up for others in this moment when we need to be standing together to help ourselves, as someone just said, buoy each other up. Someone just asked, what is chutzpah? I'm going to explain that momentarily. I love that I'm spreading chutzpah all over the world, but do not forget to stand up for each other. I will have a brief chutzpah explanation. Chutzpah is Yiddish, and it means gumption, moxie. You guys keep coming up with the good words. Nerve, right? Chutzpah. And here, I'm going to hold it up so that you can see the spelling. Chutzpah is an excellent word. If you don't know it, spunkiness. Yes, I am glad to be giving you this word if you don't know it. It's a useful word. So chutzpah, standing up for friends and your principles, and of course, remembering to be strong and of good courage. Always be strong and of good courage. We have both of those things in lots of quantities. We can keep that going. I thank you guys as ever for being here and proving that you're here and it matters and you care and you're here with others. Oh, and someone said, actually, I did mean to mention this. Someone said, how can I respond to other people? And I think if you put your cursor over a comment, I think off to the side, there are 3 little dots. And I think you can, one of them says reply, which I think enables you to reply specifically to a comment. I am not high tech, but I believe that is the answer to the question that someone asked yesterday. At any rate, folks, I send you off into the evening with the awareness that you are a big bunch of strong folks bonded in a community, and you can go off into the world and spread that spirit of community, because that's what's going to help. That's what's going to pull us out of here. And we know that. And they're helping us create that in pushing against us. Okay, folks. I love you guys. I love you guys for being here. I wish you all a good night of sleep, and I will see you soon. Night, everybody.